how many believe there is more? If you don't believe there's more, then you got a boring God.
Hey everybody, welcome to the There's More podcast. I'm your co-host, Stephen Nix, and we're doing this a little bit different this time. We got Brent Cooper is with us as well, but we're doing this remotely. We are what's the key word now people are using? Social distance.
Yeah, we're more than 6 feet apart. I can tell you that.
Yes, we're about
We're like
6 miles,
9
maybe.
miles apart.
Yeah. Something like that. So yeah, we're trying.
Hey, so
out
we're
this,
doing our part.
That's exactly right. We're trying out this new thing and basically using this app called Zoom. So we're hoping everything sounds decent.
Yeah, so if the audio does sound a little bit different, there is a reason why, and we'll be back to normal hopefully before too long. So
that's exactly right. So, but yeah, so obviously things are different right now. Things are very different. If you've been paying attention to anything at all, then you know that it's absolutely crazy right now. You know, there's madness going around. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of anxiety. There's sickness going around that's causing all this. And I told Jekka the other day, I said, Brent, I think I've told you this too, that it's insane that something that can only be seen under a microscope has basically caused this world to come to a screeching halt. I mean,
I don't think I've ever remembered a time in my life to where there's no sports, there's the restaurants are shut down, that you can't go in. I mean, literally everything has changed, and something our kids will grow up remembering. And for me, this is a first. I'm 37. This is a first for me, and it's a little weird when you're driving around in the city and there's not much going on. There'll be a few people out, but just as a whole in general, it's a little like The Walking Dead almost, like the series. By the way, let me clarify the series.
Yeah, this is probably as close as we're going to get to The Walking Dead. By the way, I mean,
Sure.
this is probably as close as we're going to get, because if anything good comes from this, it'll be the fact that we know what our weakness is as the world. I mean, period. As the United States, yes, for sure, but like as the entire world, like we know what our weakness is because we have been exposed.
Sure.
And it's absolutely crazy to see.
So
go ahead.
I know you and I didn't discuss anything tonight about what we were going to talk about. I mean, obviously we know what the hot topic is, but one question I would have, or I'm sure everyone is wondering, is how's everyone adjusting to this? And I'm talking about from married couple, single, to even kids, because this is a shock for adults, but my kids, and let me just encourage all the listeners out there, if your kids are acting crazy or maybe even not minding as well, like for us, we went from baseball 4 nights a week, sometimes 5 nights a week, baseball games, to practice, to homework, to even CrossFit kids, and school all day, to nothing. And mentally, like the kids have a really, really tough time adjusting to that. So I can just imagine as a 5-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old, how tough it is on them, because it's tough on me and my wife. It's been a huge adjustment. So how have you and Jekka adjusted to this?
Well, we've tried to be a little bit careful what we say in front of Lindley, as far as some of the news that we hear. You know, we kind of relay it back and forth to each other, because I thought at first that Lindley was going to be kind of scared by this, you know, but no, she's like, Daddy, I love the coronavirus.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of them like, hey, it's like we get a year-long vacation. So
yeah, that's right. No, but I mean, it's been, you know, we've been staying inside. I think the last time we went out was last Friday night. Went to Brent. We saw you in April at the birthday party, and that was the last time that we've actually been out. I went to the office yesterday for about an hour to get a contract signed, and then that was basically it. So
yeah,
we've been keeping our distance.
Sure. My job's a little bit different. As listeners know, I do work in the healthcare industry on the fire and paramedic side. So things have changed a lot in our industry. We're getting, I mean, almost updates at least 4 or 5 times a day from CDC and from the medical standpoint of how we handle things and how we decon, how we prepare, how we, I guess, post after we've seen a patient, how we do everything we can to protect ourselves. So, kind of on the front lines, we've had numerous cases in Jefferson County, and just the city that I work in happened to be kind of like ground zero. Some of the first ones came from the city that I work in, which is, I mean, we always joke, like, who would have ever thought that? So it's definitely very interesting. I have pulled away from social media. I have pulled away from the news because every third day I'm kind of thrown into it. So like tomorrow morning, I'll be back at work and I'll have to dive back into what's going on. But I've purposely pulled myself back from it. And some of what I want us to get into is like, not only how we're responding to this, but what is our response now as believers? You know, because it is serious that we do need to follow the things that the CDC says and things that the president has put out and the things that local, state, and cities has put out too. But I am reminded above a Bible verse that says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, make your requests be known to God." And one of the things I told April is I am trying to choose joy during this time, because everybody's like, "How would you choose joy?" Well, when everything else seems to be going chaotic and craziness, I am trying to find joy and peace during this time. But I'm also learning a lot about myself, and some of it is even with my patience and some things that I still have to work on. So a lot of families are finding out that you're spending a lot more time with your family, a lot more time with your kids. In different situations, you will find out and have different conversations with your spouse, with your kids. Some good and some maybe not so good. I mean, I had some very frustrating moments yesterday. I had dealt with some anger. I dealt with lashing out at one of my kids that I had to wake up this morning and apologize for. So, yes, I am trying to choose joy, but I'm also finding out a lot about myself. But like I said, Philippians 4:6 was, do not be anxious, but in every situation, prayer.
Yeah, I've noticed myself too. You said you'll take breaks from social media just because. I mean, it's not. I mean, that's where we get our news from nowadays. Basically, is social media. So, um, I've had to do the same thing just because I would probably say last week I got so caught up in this mess, and I say mess. I mean, it's just it's more than that. It's just
It
absolutely
is.
crazy.
It's a mess.
Yeah. Um, but I had to start taking breaks from it because caught myself becoming very just filled with anxiety, man. I'm talking about just like
Yeah.
craziness and it's not necessarily because of all the the grocery stores being packed and you can't find toilet paper and you can't find milk and bread and eggs and all that kind of stuff. Because honestly, about a month ago, a little bit, I would say the 1st of February, I kind of had a feeling this was going to happen, and so I went to Walmart and bought probably about 3 weeks worth of food for us, and I put it in a stash. And I'm like, Jecka, this is our coronavirus stash. No one touches it until we're quarantined.
That's so funny.
Yeah, but anyway, I mean, it's been. I've had to take those breaks too because there's so much information out there, and there's so much of that can be false, and so much of it is absolutely crazy. But the positive things I've seen is that a lot of people's going to get this. We just need to just be okay with that fact that a lot of people's going to get it. And if you get it, more than likely you're going to be okay. There's a lady in Gardendale. She tested positive for it on Saturday or Sunday, and the news actually interviewed her. I saw this, and she was like, "I'm fine. Like I have zero symptoms. I feel fine." She
Sure.
traveled to Europe. Some people it's going to affect big time, but we can't be living in fear as believers. Just like you said, be anxious about nothing. Do not worry about anything, but instead, like those times where you're feeling anxious and worried and scared, and you're very fearful of either your finances or sickness or whatever it is. Like those are the moments where you have to turn to God in prayer and just give it to God, man. I mean, there was a time, I think it was Sunday night. Yeah, it was Sunday night where I was just like, I'm going to devote an hour. Well, we would normally have Bible study on Sunday nights. I said, I'm going to devote this hour to prayer. And so I came down here in this room where I'm in right,
Right.
turned on some worship music and read some scripture and just prayed. And I can't tell you how much better I felt when I did that. And I didn't do that to make myself feel better. but I did that because it was a, we as Christians, that's what we should be doing, is praying in situations like this, because I wholeheartedly believe, and we've talked about this before, but the Bible specifically states in many different situations where, because people prayed, God intervened and he moved. And so that's kind of been my hope throughout all
Yeah.
this, is as if we cry out to God, and we know what Second Chronicles says, so if we cry out to God, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face, he will heal our land. And so that's obviously a cry right there. But what I'm saying is that beyond just that scripture, like, we need to be crying out to God and just asking God to intervene, and for God just to show up. I mean, how awesome would it be with all these scientists saying, hey, this thing's going to last for 3 or 4 more months. We don't have a vaccine for it yet. All these things, like, we're going to have to hunker down for a long time. Okay. And some of these scientists are saying could last even longer. How awesome would it be if God said, hold up, watch me. And then
Right.
maybe a month from now, this thing can be gone. I mean, just wiped out
Sure.
completely. So that's been my
And
prayer.
I think in the meantime, the church has a responsibility. And I think one thing as believers, there's been a change, is the fact that we don't get a chance to go to a building and congregate with people. We're used to, whether you go to a midweek or a Sunday evening, whatever your church decides to do, that's what you're used to. And a lot of times you're used to an experience, and your experience could be, live worship, passionate preaching, or small groups, so many different things. And now you find yourself with your family or just by yourself. And I do think it is a challenge for believers, and even for myself. Like, I sent you and Jacka and April some things yesterday morning out of Galatians. God just, hey, start reading Galatians. And one of the things it reminded me of is that when Paul was changed, it said that he didn't seek the approval of man, which means, like, he wasn't waiting on somebody else to tell him about his faith and what he had known. So we don't have to wait on a preacher to give us something. We don't have to wait on a Sunday school teacher or a leader. We have the Word of God. We have enough. And like Andrew said in the last podcast, we can just tell people what we know. Yeah. And what we know is this, and this has been a great teaching thing for even with my kids when we talk about the coronavirus, because my oldest Levi is very intrigued about it. He'll ask about it. And I'll say, we are seeing the results of sin. And there are so many things other than the corona. There's this sickness and disease, and bad things happen because of the fall of man. It was separation from God, and Jesus was the bridge. So we don't need to discount that during these times of trials and times of tribulation, which the Bible talks about. Even John 16:33 says, I have told you these things that you may have peace. In this world, you will have trouble, but take heart. Jesus says, I've overcome the world. So this world is full of sin, and this is a byproduct of it. And we're just seeing it play out in measures that is affecting the economy. It's affecting households. It's affecting professional athletes. One of our friends is plays professional golf, and he said that they may not be playing for 4 months. Well, that's a big deal for people that are depending on it. And think about all the people that are working, in jobs that require tips because their hourly wage is so low. Like, there's a lot of people in sale like this. It's a struggle, but Jesus says, take heart. Like, hey, my hope is not in these things. It has to be on Jesus, and this is where faith comes into action. And that's where it gets tough. It's where the rubber meets the road. But we do have a response as the church. Like you said, if we would humble ourselves and pray, and then we're learning a lot about ourselves during these times.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we don't need to miss the fact that, like, during these times is where the church should shine. It's during these times where these rough times, these really, really rough times, where we have so many opportunities. And, whether it's just sharing a Bible verse a day to bring encouragement, or going to buy groceries for an elderly person that shouldn't be out buying groceries because they have the, chance to get sick. Whatever it is, there's so many different opportunities. Like, this is the time where the church should shine, and to shine the light of Jesus. And that's really that's really what this whole podcast thing was about, because we wanted to obviously shine the light of Jesus every episode that we have. But and that's what we should be doing during these tough times too, is not being fearful and anxious. Because here's the deal, guys: we're not going to run out of groceries. Like, that's not going to happen. Like, there's no way that can like physically happen right now. Like, we're not going to run out of groceries for the next year. Okay, this could go on for like 2 years and we would be fine. Um, you know, the economy is probably going to take a hit. It's taking a hit now, and that's going to be okay. Don't look at your 401k for like 6 months. Okay, just don't look at it. Don't worry about it. It's going to be okay. Matter of fact, if there's a chance, that they started talking, the government mentioned that they could be sending Americans money to help get through this crisis. And so, hey, my opinion on that is, if you get some money but you're kind of already, well off and you don't necessarily need it, hey, invest it in the stock market, because I guarantee you in the next 5 or 6 months that thing's going to go skyrocket up. Okay, so that's just my coronavirus tips there for. But other than that, no, man, it's just from a spiritual side. Yes, I mean, we need to do everything we can now, because this is when the world is looking at us. Because
Right.
there's people right now that are lost as could be, that are turning to Christians, wanting to find answers, or they're
Right.
turning to God, just questioning God. Hey, what's going on? Like, why are you allowing this to happen?
So if you'll remember a couple of podcasts ago, we were talking about in Australia, all the fires, and that people were very open and receptive to the gospel, or realizing that there was a higher being, and people were sharing that Jesus was that answer. And I was talking to Travis Key the other day. Just about every podcast we mentioned Travis, by the way. He's like a third unofficial member, co-host, by the way. And I said, Travis, do you think people would be open to the gospel during this time? And he said, I think so. He said, I think absolutely. I think people are searching and hoping for something, looking for hope in some fashion. That obviously it can't be found in a job. It can't be found in the stock market. It can't be found even in the grocery store. We watch all humanity. Go watch YouTube. Watch people fighting over toilet paper. I don't know if they're just like bowling in their hallway with toilet paper and stacking them up. But anyway, people are searching for hope in something. And I do think it's a great time that we always have to ask, where is God at in this? We've had some mentors in mine and April's life that always says, where is God at in this situation? He's here, he's there. And he's wanting the church continuing what the church does. And that's proclaim the name of Jesus is the only one that will bring satisfaction, hope. And it's the way to God. It's that bridge like we talked about. And people need that right now. People need hope.
Absolutely. And the thing that's so weird to me is that we have come across
to not catch a fever, by the way. We need hope and not to catch a fever. Good.
You got that right. Everybody needs to be careful.
Sorry.
Wash your dang hands, and stay away from people if you can. But what this thing that's crazy to me is that, like, we're experiencing something that has never been experienced since, 1918 is when they had the Spanish flu that killed like a lot of people. And so we're experiencing something now that is similar to that, but like not in my generation, not in my parents' generation. Like, I mean, this is unprecedented. I mean, this is just absolutely phenomenal that's taking place. And it's kind of, I think we're going to look back in about a year and we're going to be like, hey, y'all remember that time people were stocking up on toilet paper and everything else, just so we could, because we were scared. We're scared of the unknown. That's what most people are scared of. We're just scared of the unknown. We're scared. We don't know what's going to happen. And that's why the stock market's crazy. That's why people are running to the grocery stores. That's why all this is taking place, is because the fear of the unknown. And of course, you don't want to get sick. So that's why people are stocking up on stuff, because they don't want to have to go back out in public in 2 weeks, so.
Right.
But
let me ask you this question. And this is something that I was talking to a good friend of mine today about, it's interesting to me as humans, is how much we crave news, we crave information. And like, I know my wife, April, has like, she'll say, she'll look at the CDC, she'll be looking at different things. And like, she'll say, I want to watch the news tonight. But as a whole, in general, no matter what's going on, and it can be from disaster to good things to sports or whatever the latest and greatest is, like, we naturally crave information. We want to know what's going on. trying to like draw the line of like where that becomes spiritual is like we are drawn to know something. We want to know what's out there. We got to have some information. We got to have news. And I sat next to a little old lady the other day on a motorized bike. I'm just kidding.
Excuse me, little old lady.
If someone, I hope someone gets that. But little old lady at Little Caesars was getting ready for a birthday party. And I said, hey, she was like, she had to be in like 85, and she was scrolling through Facebook. I said, you keeping up with the news? And she goes, there's nothing but bad news. And I was like, hey, well, there's good news. There's good news. And I said, God's still in control. And she goes, you know what? You got that right. And I said, well, if we can just keep focused on that God is still in control and that, you know, he's got a plan through all this. Even during bad times, he's got a plan. And we see it all around us. There's still a plan. And I was like, there is good news. There may not be good news on your local, you know, channel, but there is still good news.
Yeah, I think that is the main thing that we need to take from all of this is that, you know what, there's going to be moments in our lives where it is absolutely crazy. And we're going to experience these times where there's the fear of the unknown, or there's fear of sickness, or fear of death, or fear of, you know, not having money, finances, whatever it is. I mean, there's crazy things out there, but we just need to keep our focus on Jesus and realize that everything is going to be okay. Everything's going to be just fine. We're going to get through this, you know, and the thing is that the next month it's probably going to get worse. Like it's bound to get worse. And by that, I'm saying like the number of cases are going to go up. There's going to be some deaths. Those things are going to happen. It's going to happen in our area. But I think we just have to keep our focus on God and realize, just like you said, Brent, God is in control. It's going to be okay. I don't know if I guess it's a hymn, but I was singing the other night, and I was down here in this beautiful studio downstairs in the basement, and I was just picked the guitar up, started playing and singing, and the song that came to my head was "Turn Your Eyes Upon Jesus," and it says, "Turn your eyes upon Jesus, look full in His wonderful face. The things of earth will grow strangely dim in the light of His glory and grace."
Right.
And so that's what we need to do, is keep our eyes on Jesus, and all the worries, the fear, the anxieties, all the things of this world, it'll start to grow dim, I promise you. And our hope is in Jesus, and that's where we place our trust.
Yeah, and choose joy. I mean, every day there's something that God's wanting to show you or teach you. And your ministry just could be with you, your family, your wife and your kids, or whoever's closest to you, your neighbor. You know, love your neighbors yourself. Obviously 6 feet away, of course, but there's great opportunity. There's great opportunity to see ministry in a different light, and don't discount it. And I will say, just from the medical side, is yes, it has been a little overwhelming, but I will say very quickly, so many departments, especially where we're from in Jefferson County in the state of Alabama, there has been so many measures taken and people coming together, putting together a plan. We've got new protocols. I mean, all the PPE or personal protective equipment's been distributed out. Like, there is a plan. Fire departments and paramedics are still running calls and still responding to calls. It is different, a lot of different protocols. And I have to throw this out there just because on behalf of us, like, just because you feel like you have it doesn't mean you have to call 911. We are obviously our job is to educate people and to allow them to go get self-tested. And then most time, once they're either diagnosed or not diagnosed, they'll just go self-quarantine for 14 days. And they may have nothing more than a sore throat. They may have no symptoms, or they could be like the flu. And then if you start having actual true medical problems, medical emergency, respiratory problems, difficulty breathing, 911's there. We'll come. We'll take you to the hospital and treat you and all that stuff too. But just because you get a sniffle is not means for 911. I gotta throw that out there on the behalf of us, because I'm back on shift tomorrow and I don't need 5,000 people thinking that they have it when they're okay. Just take a moment and follow. Call your doctor. Go through the things that we've been getting the information out, and then you'll be just fine. And if not, call 911. Like, I even got it right here on the cup.
There you go. Call 911, baby. 911. No, that's good information, because there's a lot of people out there that are freaking out. And just like Brent said, if you're not running fever, anything like that, like, you're probably going to be fine. Okay, so just hunker down. You'll be okay. And we have to be in prayer for basically the medical field right now, because nurses, doctors, all those first responders, period,
The
firemen.
CDC, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of decisions being made, and they need prayer, they need wisdom. Ask God to guide them through this. And one thing we saw back during 9/11 is the way everybody rallied. The United States, even other countries that had our back. So this just tends to happen. The church ends up being the church, and we see in Acts that this happened. I would encourage you to find a way to do ministry. There is churches in the area that are finding ways to feed kids that are struggling with lunches and suppers, and you can get involved in that. I know Church of the Highlands, which is local in the state of Alabama, they have set up a place where you can get testing done. So that's churches are trying to do their part. So get in touch with your local ministry, and if they don't have the means, that's okay. Another church, join in with another church. It doesn't matter which denomination. This is a Jesus thing. It's a global church thing. That is not a denomination thing. So tap into somewhere and find a way to do ministry. And that's something that my wife mentioned to me not even an hour ago. She said, hey, the Garden of First Baptist is trying to help feed some of the local kids, and let's try to be a part of that. So there are opportunities, and just look for them.
Absolutely. There's opportunities there, just like we mentioned earlier. So all you have to do is open your eyes and just see it. And even if you don't want to get out in the community and do anything, I can understand that. Hey, why don't you just spend time in prayer? Like
James Spann said it best. If you can do anything for me, what do you say?
He said, pray for me.
Pray for me. And man, my encouragement to anybody listening is, if you're struggling with this, like if you're struggling, you say, like I posted the other day on Facebook, and I said, I'm taking a break. I am taking a break from reading all this crap, but I did post about, how are you doing? How's your soul during this? And if you find yourself where you're extremely worried, and you're worried on the sense of like spiritually, something's just not right, you're missing something, and your anxiety is coming from not only this, but knowing that like, hey, what if, because everybody's going to have their moment to where they take their last breath. That's just a fact of life. And if you don't know Jesus as your personal Lord and Savior, man, what a joy it would be for Stephen or I, or to even get you plugged in with somebody, or us help lead you to Christ. And just, it is very simple. It's the most simple thing on our end, and it was the most horrific death on the other end of the sacrifice that came. That Jesus died on the cross. He raised on the third day. He is sitting at the Father's right hand right now. He is for us. He is fully aware. And he was the ultimate sacrifice that took every sin, past, present, and future, because there will be sin in our lives, today and tomorrow and forever on. And it's a sanctification thing that we're continuing to try to walk out. But if your soul is struggling, like, Jesus is that answer.
Yeah.
Even when Corona is gone, and it will be something else. There'll be something else this world will throw at us. Jesus will be your hope, and who you need to keep your eyes focused on and looking to.
That's exactly right. And that's what's most important. I mean, because regardless of what we come across and run into, the most important thing is do you have a relationship with Jesus? Because that's it. That's where our hope is. That's where our faith is. That's who we trust. And, in these moments like this, it's time for the church to rise up and be the church, show the light of Christ. Just encourage you guys, stay in prayer for the leaders of this country, the leaders of other countries too, because the good old US of A is not the only country struggling with this right now. Okay. So be in prayer for the leaders around the world, be in prayer for those first responders, the nurses, the doctors, the people that have to see this every day. Okay. Be in prayer for those people, be in prayer for the elderly, the sick, all of those. Like, we should be praying, and also be praying for the churches too, because now is the time for us, just like we've been talking about this whole episode, now is the time for the church to rise up and be what the church was called to be. So be praying for the pastors. And man, I watched like three or four online services on Sunday that I watched, and man, I was moved to tears in every single one of them.
Mm-hmm.
There was something where God just moved on me in every single one of the services. And I keep praying that as long as we have to do online services, that God's going to continue to move. He's going to continue to show out. He's going to continue to save people, because, guys, this is for the good. Like, God always turns evil into good somehow. And so I just know that, this might be the wake-up call. Brent, we talked about, I think in the first episode, like, we really feel like God was about to do something really big in our country, in the world, and just have a big movement. This could be what sparks that. I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, this might, just like we had 9/11. I mean, that sparked people to basically wake up. It sparked Christians to wake up, and this might be the wake up call.
Yeah, for sure. And if your church is not gathering together, and there are local ministries that are doing online services, there's a lot of podcasts you can follow. I know Church of the Highlands is doing stuff, Cardinal First Baptist, and there's Judah Smith is a great one. What's the book we just went through with the pastor, that the marriage book?
Craig,
Rochelle?
Yeah, Craig Rochelle.
Craig Rochelle. There's a ton of ministries out there that are doing online services. There's no audience, by the way. So if you see there, look out there, that's not going to be uncommon right now. But tap in and still join in to see what God is doing, and tell the people of your church. I know Judah Smith has a church home thing. That there's an app you can download that they have services you can download and be a part of all over the world. So God has given us means to have ministry, and so just tap in and keep plugging into the heart of God, plug it into the Word of God, and tell people what you know. You may not know a lot about the virus or what's going on, but tell them that, hey, we got a God that's for us, and let me tell you about what's going on during this time of uncertainty.
That's right. Well, I think that's all we got for this episode. We just wanted to kind of step in and kind of give you our thoughts on it, and be praying for Brent, because he's going to see this firsthand. He's going to come in contact with some people that have it, and pray that God protects him and keeps him safe, and pray for all the first responders out there that are going to be doing the same thing. There's a lot of people out there that's working hard. My family's in the medical field. I got a sister-in-law that works at the UAB ER in Gardendale. I got my sister as well. She works at, I believe, the UAB downtown. So, they're going to be experiencing this, and just prayers all over the city for everybody that's going to be doing their job, and they put the people first, above themselves, and that's what I guess I'm just so proud of it for those people, and it just I'm humbled by it too. So, but yes, stay in prayer. You guys keep 6 feet away from each other, and wash your hands, use hand sanitizer, all that kind of stuff, and stop freaking out and buying all the toilet paper.
That's it.
We'll see you guys next time.
See you.